Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. And now, Tider Insider TV.
This past Saturday night in hot Atlanta, the Alabama Crimson Tide defeated the Florida State Seminoles 24-7 in what was called the greatest opener of all time at the brand new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and it is some kind of facility. The top-ranked Tide had a slow start offensively and really was sluggish all night, but an outstanding game by the special teams and a defense that absolutely smothered DeAndre Francois and company allowed the Tide to forge ahead and post the victory against the number 3 Seminoles. And good evening, everybody. Welcome in to another edition of Tider Insider TV, presented each and every week by Buffalo Rock, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, the grandfather of all thing Alabama sports on the internet. I'm Gary Harris, WVUA 23 Sports Director. Once again tonight, you know, the Diet Pepsi's really tasty. I've got no issues with it. But once football season kicks in, I just need a few calories, need a little sugar. Listen to that sound. Sounds good, but it tastes even better going down. I'm ready. Thanks to our friends at Buffalo Rock. Remember, pick up some Pepsi products the next time you're at your local grocery or convenience store. Rodney, a lot of talk about the rash of injuries to the linebacking core for the Crimson Tide. I've never seen anything like it. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's start out by analyzing the Florida State game. And let's begin with the defense because the defense was so dominant. Florida State got the one touchdown on a fade pass from DeAndre Francois to their big, tall wide receiver. Mika Fitzpatrick had him draped for coverage, but the guy just went up and high-pointed it and made the play. You know, sometimes they make plays. But overall, the defense, despite the injuries to the linebackers, man alive. You and I said we didn't think they would drop off much. I'm not sure they weren't better than last year.
Yeah, that was an incredible performance, Gary. It looked there for a while. Francois got hot. I think at one point he was like 7 for 7 for 86 yards. I might have been on their touchdown drive, but he had a pretty good streak going, and it looked like I was thinking, hey, this may be one of those 400-yard games like a Deshaun Watson or Chad Kelly's had against the Alabama defense. But, you know, the way Alabama responded, the adjustments they made defensively, Gary, the last 8 possessions that Florida State had, 66 yards. Yeah,
Alabama just absolutely smothered them. And DeAndre Francois, the great quarterback, I know Jimbo Fisher's a competitor, down 17 with 5.5. I'm not sure he still should have been in the game because Alabama was teeing off on him. And Rodney Harrison just making a football play, tackled him from behind. And, of course, Francois is out for the year. But Alabama's got its share of injuries as well. So I said we'll get to those in a moment. Let's talk about the offense. And I thought that Jalen Hurts did some really good things in this game. Yes, I know he probably needs to throw the ball a little bit more to more receivers. But, again, he didn't turn it over. He got out of some plays where he was rushed to avoid negative yardage, and they ran the ball well, much better statistically in the first half, but in the second half when they were protecting that lead with the way the defense was playing, there wasn't a need to do very much. But overall, the offense, I think, has some work to do. There's a beautiful play. But at the same time, when you score 24, even with help from the special teams, and you beat the number 3 team in the country by 17, you can't be too disappointed.
Right. I'll say this, too, Gary. I mean, I think it was pretty evident. They were pretty vanilla offensively.
Yeah, and Florida State's good on defense.
Yeah, Florida State's fantastic on defense. That's the first thing we should note is because, let me tell you something, there were times there that they looked like there were plays. They were so athletic, so fast. They closed things up very, very quickly. This is an outstanding defense. I'm not sure Alabama will play a better defense, a more athletic, faster defense this year than the one they saw the other night. Again, so that's a big part of it. But there's no question about it. Alabama has to improve the passing game. I'm going to give you some staggering stats. Over the past 4 games, Alabama's average throwing for just over 100 yards per game, completing 49% of those passes, only 3 touchdowns. You know, those statistics have to change. And again, that's not being critical. That's just something you've got to be able to improve upon.
I'm with you, but I'll also point out a stat too. They played Washington, Clemson, and Florida State.
Yeah, those are really good defenses. I'm not questioning that, but I still say you have to improve that.
Real quick thought on the kicking game. The special teams was unbelievable. J.K. Scott, other than the one shank, was unbelievable, kicking off and punting. Papanastos wasn't always pretty. He did go 3 for 5. He hit the 3 short ones. He missed the 2 longer ones. Still, though, you feel like the kicking area probably needs to improve some with Papanastos.
Yeah, you know, we thought going in, we talked about maybe Papanastos handling the shorter range kicks, and we really felt that he would probably be pretty good from inside of 40, which he was. He was perfect. He was 3 for 3 inside of 40. It was the outside of 40 kicks that got him in trouble, and you know, maybe didn't kick those as well. Gary, I'm not sure that he can't hit those. He just didn't, you know, on those particular kicks, did not hit those very well. But, you know, we'll see if they continue to just use him or if they start using either J.K. Scott or Joseph Balovis, the true freshman, on the longer range kids.
Rod, now to the injuries at the linebacking position. 4 players out. Nick Saban addressed that rash of injuries against Florida State in his press conference on Monday.
Christian Miller and Terrell Lewis will be out for the year. Both of them have season-ending surgeries coming up. Rashaan Evans and Anthony Jennings both have, I would call them, significant injuries that won't be long-term.
Well, Rod, Alabama has one of the best strength and conditioning programs in the country. Injuries have not been a major factor under Nick Saban. For the most part, Alabama has been a lot better off in the injury department than other teams. But on Saturday night, and you heard Coach run them off there, Christian Miller and Terrell Lewis 1 and 2 at their positions on the outside. Anthony Jennings, they're lost for the year. Anthony Jennings, the other outside linebacker, probably a few weeks. He's going to have surgery on his foot, but he will be back. And then Rashaan Evans, who plays inside as a starter, but also can play outside. He's got a growing pull. We don't know when he'll be back. And that's unbelievable.
Most teams couldn't survive it, Gary, to be honest with you. And, you know, but Alabama certainly has a lot of talent. You look at that inside linebacker core. I was watching them yesterday during the media viewing period. Still very impressive, obviously, without Rashaan Evans. But you had Sean Deion Hamilton and Keith Holcomb. I thought, like you mentioned earlier, Gary, he had a fantastic game against Florida State. Mack Wilson obviously had a really good game as well. I think Dylan Moses is going to be an outstanding player. He looks like he's ready to contribute. Now on the outside, that's where you have to replace Terrell Lewis and Christian Miller, the pass rushers, and the guys that I think are, you know, really can be dominant type players. You know, Jamie Mosley's a walk-on, but now he has earned a scholarship.
Yep.
He's a guy that, you know, could be possibly starting in this game this week. Mekhi Brown's a guy that's been around. He was a highly recruited player. He's a redshirt sophomore. He's going to get an opportunity to step up. Tell you the guy I really like that I think is going to be a great player. That's Chris Allen, true freshman out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I think, you know, keep an eye on number 4 defensively. I really think he's going to emerge. And Gary, I tell you, Vandarius Cowan's another true freshman, number 43, has a lot of ability.
Hopefully
Again,
Ben Davis could be in the mix.
Ben Davis could be in the mix, but number 43, Vandarius Cowan, has a lot of ability. He's just struggled with some back spasms.
Yeah, you remember when Bill Parcells told the Giants, this is why you lift all them weights? Well, for Alabama, this is why you recruit all these players and have all this depth for situations like this. You mentioned Sean Deion Hamilton coming back from knee surgery, injury suffered in the SEC championship game. He was named the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. How's that for a comeback? Against Florida State, a team high 8 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and a sack. Almost had a pick. The award is the first of his career. And again, coming off that knee surgery, wearing a big brace. This guy's a football player, Rodney. He may not be the biggest, he may not be the fastest, but you know what he is? He's a football player.
He's instinctive. He's instinctive, Gary. He can see things almost before they happen, and he is there to make the play. He's always in the right spot. Huge loss last year when he went down. Glad to see him back making plays.
All right, coming up next, preparations began yesterday for the Crimson Tide's matchup against Fresno State this Saturday at home, the home opener. We'll discuss the upcoming game next on TITV. And also coming up, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. There's the information on your screen. The phone number is always 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Email and tweet information there as well. We'll be back with more of the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. The season is here, and we're back after this.
They're big and physical and fast and can make a lot of plays. So, you know, it's obviously it's a huge challenge for us, but it's a great opportunity, you know, to go play in that environment, 100,000 fans, and against the #1 team in the nation. Great opportunity for us.
Fresno State head coach Jeff Tedford just telling it like it is. Bama is loaded and he knows it. Welcome back to Tider Insider TV, presented by Buffalo Rock and Pepsi, a Southern original. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. The Bulldogs, though, opened in style on Saturday night, beating Incarnate Word, a team from the Southland Conference, from the state of Texas, picked to finish last in the Southland Conference. I can see why they took it on the chin, 66-0. But Rodney, the Tide took notice of that big victory for the Bulldogs.
Very good offensive team. I mean, they scored 66 points in their first game. Very explosive. We have to make sure we're tied in on offense. The defensive line, and the linebackers.
They're fast, physical. They're long. Obviously, they shut out the team that they played this last weekend. So anytime you can do that, obviously you're a great defense. And you know, we're looking forward to the challenges that we're going to have with them.
All right, Rodney, coming off a huge win against Florida State, Alabama. Some might say, especially with the injuries, potential for a letdown, even though it's the home opener. But this Fresno State team, we know what kind of coach Jeff Tedford is. Brilliant offensive coach. You better show up and be ready to turn it on. You better not just show up and sleepwalk.
Yeah, you know, they've had an outstanding program in the past.
Yeah, they have.
I mean,
Pat Hill, they were really good.
Yeah, they were really good. I mean, they were a threat. And again, obviously last year they were 1-11, so they've slipped on hard times. But, you know, you mentioned Jeff Tedford. This guy is you're talking about an offensive wizard. I mean, he produced some big numbers out of California.
He did.
I mean, they really did. He, you know, one time he was a very hot name as a coach, and so they're fortunate to have him, I think, in my opinion. But, you know, Gary, that's what you're concerned about. They put up 613 yards last week against, again, it was against Incarnate Word, but, you know, 400 of that, 414, was through the air, 199 rushing. Defensively, they held Incarnate Word to minus 30 yards rushing. So, you know, they're playing on both sides of the ball, playing really well in that first game. Again, you know, obviously the level this week is going to be much greater in the coming to Tuscaloosa. But this is a team that, as you mentioned, coming off this game against Florida State, a lot of injuries. You know, certainly don't want to let down.
Fortunately, you saw the Derek Carr posters. His jersey was retired Saturday night. Fortunately for Alabama, he played for the Raiders, not for Fresno anymore. Alabama, meanwhile, you see Tua Tagovailoa. We expect him to make his collegiate debut on Saturday. Josh Jacobs hopefully will be back in the backfield. I guess, Rod, let's be honest, Alabama's better. We know that clearly. I guess it's just about taking care of your business, overcoming these injuries, overcoming tragedy in the program, which we'll touch on later on in the show. But just be focused and go out at home and take care of business and try to get maybe some of these starters out of there pretty quickly so they don't have to worry about more injuries.
I think this is a big game for a lot of reasons. I mean, you've got several new faces on the defensive side. Obviously, with all the injuries, those guys need to develop, certainly, as you start to move forward. So this is a big first step for a lot of those guys. So I think it's very important defensively. I think on the offensive side, we saw the work that they have to do. You know, I think this is an opportunity to work on those things, the things in the passing game. The offensive line has a long way to go in terms of pass protection, running the football as well, being consistent, developing some rhythm offensively. I think all of those things make this a very, very big game for Alabama, an opportunity to improve.
Absolutely. Well, coming up next on TITV, Justin Thomas continues his hot streak on the PGA Tour, winning another championship and earning him a spot alongside the best in the game. Stick around for more Tighter Insider TV. Up next, we'll be welcoming your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Again, there's the information, all 3 ways that you can get in touch with us here on the program. I know you're fired up to talk about this Bama football team. Let's do it next. Stay with us. Former Bama All-American Justin Thomas is good at golf. This just in. He captured his 5th victory of the 2017 PGA Tour season on Monday, earning the 6th title of his career at the Dell Technologies Championship. It helped Thomas become one of just 4 golfers since 1960 to claim 5 victories in the same PGA Tour season before the age of 25. He's 24 years old. Man, what a career he is already off to. All right, Rodney, you ready to take some phone calls?
Yeah.
They're lined up for us. Let's go to Bill in Birmingham. Bill, welcome into TITV. How you doing, man? Bill, you with us? Going once, going twice, 3 times. Bill's gone. Wanted to know, wanted you to critique the freshmen. Wanted to know how they did in the game against Florida State.
Well, I mean, I thought you had three wide receivers play. Ruggs almost had him a touchdown, didn't he?
Almost.
Yeah. Listen, I think that all those guys played really well. Dylan Moses had a big play on special teams where he stripped the ball and had Keith Holcomb recovered that, set up the score for Alabama. So, hey, listen, I think you're going to see a lot more of the freshmen contribute in big ways as we start to move forward. We talked about Chris Allen and those guys on the defensive side. I think you'll see a lot from them here coming up.
All right. I don't know what happened to Bill from Birmingham, but I guarantee you Rick from Bluff Park's still on the line, aren't you, Rick?
Yes, sir. You better believe it, buddy. Hey, previous caller kind of stole my thunder on both counts. I wanted to ask about any young'uns that stood out, and I wanted to give a shout-out to old home cooking Keith Holcomb there. He had a whale of a game. Mighty proud of him. Thanks for taking my call, fellas.
Yeah, Rick. We'll talk about Keith Holcomb since we've already touched on the freshman. This is a guy from nearby Hillcrest High School. He's a legacy. His daddy, Danny Holcomb, played for Coach Bryant, but he's a good football player, kind of a glue guy, but a lot more athletic probably than he's given credit for. He came up big on Saturday night.
Yeah, he's a lot more athletic, Gary. You know, he's a lot faster. He's a tremendous athlete. There's no question about that. Plays baseball as well. We know about that. You know, I'm not really surprised by the contribution that he made. It was just a matter of time before Keith Holcomb played and did really well. and I think he's going to be a big part of this defense.
Yeah, all those linebackers have to step up. All right, we're going to take a timeout, but we've got more phone calls to come here on the program. Again, there's the number, and there are some lines open right now at 205-348-9882. You can email us at the address on your screen, TITV@WVUA23.com, or you can reach us on Twitter. Please use the hashtag TITV, though, so that Bethany will see your tweet. If you tweet at us using the hashtag TITV, we'll get you on. More phone calls right after this on the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, the award-winning Tider Insider TV. And welcome back to TITV, live from inside the Digital Media Center at the University of Alabama in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Rodney or Gary Harris, and I think you know who you are. We know who Gary and Helena is. He sent us an email. Let's check it out, Rod. Do you think Brian Daboll's play calling was intentionally conservative, or are there bigger issues he's trying to protect? That's a good question. I want to start there, Rod, because I do think they probably played a little conservative, knowing how well the defense was playing. At the same time, it's his first game calling plays in college football. His first game with Jalen Hurts. He's got to get a feel for things. I thought he did okay. I was very disappointed when it was 1st and goal at the 5 after the blocked punt. They ran it, got it down to about the 3.5, and then went spread and threw the ball twice and wound up having to kick a field goal. Pound the ball in. If I'm Brian Daboll, when you got that offensive line and those backs, I'm pounding it in. But all in all, how did you think he did? And did you think he was conservative on purpose?
Well, conservative. I thought it was a vanilla game plan. I don't think there's any question about that. They didn't take a lot of chances. They didn't have to be honest with you, the way the game started going. And again, I think we're going to see more as we move along. I know some fans are saying, where are the tight ends in the passing game? What about the running backs? All of those things utilized in the passing game. I think we'll see more. I think they'll continue to develop the offense as they move forward. Again, was it a plain vanilla offense? Yeah, I thought it was, but I don't think it's going to stay that way.
You know what I did miss about Lane Kiffin not being there? When the Ridley play came open, Kiffin would have had the arms up in about 3 seconds. Not Daboll, but it was a great play. All right, let's go to the phones and talk with Trey in West Blockton. What's up, Trey? How you doing, man?
How have y'all been?
Very well. Good to hear from you.
I hate to be gloomy. I know it's a big win, and I'm proud of the Tide every week, but not just pertaining to Saturday, but in recent years, I've kind of grown weary of this bend but don't break secondary. You know, I mean, relative to the recruiting accolades and just the pure height, weight, speed, talent that these guys have, and being coached by Saban, I just like to see a true shutdown corner, for example, emerge like Fitzpatrick.
All right, Trey. Let us comment on that, because I know exactly where you're going. And you're a very knowledgeable fan. I think maybe you judge Alabama a little more harshly than you should. I mean, they just gave up 250 total yards to the number 3 team in the country. The 2 big plays they had in the passing game, the play down the middle, Anthony Averett had the guy blanketed. He was 6'5". He went up and got it. Mika Fitzpatrick had the guy blanketed. They had, what was it, 2 or 3 interceptions, Rodney?
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, but people give up plays in college football, Trey. I don't know that there is such a thing as a shutdown corner anymore. I'd put Alabama secondary up myself against just about anybody in the country.
Well, I'll say this. I thought they did a phenomenal job after that series where they took it down for the touchdown. Again, their last 8 possessions, 66 yards of offense. I thought they made great adjustments. I thought, to be honest with you, I thought they shut Francois down. And I think Levi Wallace, you want to talk about shutting that half of the field down? I thought he shut it down, Trey. He did an outstanding job when he came in, made some big plays. He had an interception. I feel really confident about this Alabama defense, and I really like what I saw from the secondary, because I was afraid for a minute that Francois was getting ready to go off.
I thought they played great, and I wouldn't be surprised if Levi Wallace starts on Saturday. All right, Reg, quickly, they're in Birmingham. What you got, Reg?
Yes, I don't want to be too harsh on the boy. I'm tickled to death. I was afraid he wouldn't beat Florida State.
Me too.
Jalen Hurts, when can we ever get him out of that habit of dropping and running out of the pocket? He loses many yards when he could throw it out of bounds.
Okay, all right, Reg, good point. I tell you, he was getting harassed all night Saturday night. I thought he did a pretty good job. Rodney's already said he needs to improve in the passing game. I think he will.
Yeah, again, Gary, I think the protections, getting those right, the offensive line still a work in progress.
All right, and I think he throws the ball away quite a bit, actually, Reg. Good phone call. Thanks for the calls. We'll be back to wrap up TITV right after this. The Alabama-Florida State game was tabbed the greatest opener of all time. That's the GOAT for short, and boy, the fans tuned in for it, didn't they? It went on record as the most watched kickoff game in network history, drawing in more than 12.5 million viewers. The game surpassed last season's matchup between Notre Dame and Texas by 13%. And in Birmingham, I think they said like 80-something% of the TVs was turned to that game. No surprise there. Well, welcome back to TITV. Rodney Orr, Gary Harris. It's time now to make our predictions for this week's game against Fresno State, the home opener on Saturday afternoon at Bryant-Denny Stadium. Rodney, tell us who you got and why.
Well, Gary, first of all, I want to say I really think this is a big game. I don't think there's any doubt about it. There's so many things that Alabama has to work on. You look on the offensive side, we talked about the offensive line, we talked about the protection. They've got to develop some rhythm offensively in the passing game, get the running game going. They've got all those backs. I think this is a great opportunity to do that. We talked about the new faces on defense. You know, they're going to have to develop some of those young linebackers. I think this is a great opportunity for that. You know, I know that Jeff Tedford, he's an outstanding coach at Fresno State. I think he's going to do an outstanding job. He's going to bring a lot of offense to them. But I'll say this, Gary. You know, obviously this is a much bigger stage than they've been on in a while. Alabama 45-3.
Well, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. I'm with you. I got it 48-10. I think Jeff Tedford's a great coach, and he'll get that program going. But they're not ready for Bama. I think Fresno State gets a late touchdown to get to 10. I like the Tide to roll. Before we close, we want to pass along our condolences to Mike Loxley, Alabama's assistant, our co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach, on the death of his middle son Miko on Sunday night in Maryland. Miko was shot to death. This is a tragedy not only for the Loxley family, but for the Alabama football family. He was back at practice today, which is remarkable to me to be dealing with that and back at practice. But again, our condolences to the Loxley family, and just a terrible tragedy. Well, it is time to close it out. But as always, our beautiful shirts and ties provided by the Locker Room in downtown Tuscaloosa. Go by and visit them in person or shop online at locker-room.biz. Alex, Rush, and the crew will hook you up with that original elephant wear or all other types of great menswear. They'll have you looking like $1 million for the football game on Saturday. Get by and see them this week. Rodney, I like the shirt you got with the old school Alabama logo on there. How about that?
The mean elephant.
Yeah, you got to like that. Well, thanks everybody for tuning into the program. If you missed the show, we'll have a replay tonight for you at 10:30 right here on WVUA 23, or you can watch it online anytime at WVUA23.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Reminder that Crimson Tide Kickoff comes your way Saturday morning live from here at Bryant-Denny Stadium at 11 a.m. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you again next week.